I don't necessarily feel anything about avoiding so many tons of carbon emissions. And when it comes to influencing that CFO to ink the agreement, or sign the check, sign the PPA, that person needs to feel something if the economics are on the edge, or, in today's PPA market, they're paying up. They're paying up significantly, and they're often perceived as a cost center when they can do tremendous benefit by saying yes and signing off for that on-site power or that massive PPA or whatever it might be.
Energy is personal. It's not just about megawatts and emissions. It's about the people, businesses, and communities it powers. In this episode of Renewable Rides, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Andrew DeMille, who is the COO and co-founder of Quantum Energy. And we explore what it means to truly humanize energy. As sustainability shifts from a nice to have to a business imperative, companies can no longer rely on vanity metrics. They need real data, insights that go beyond carbon emissions to measure the full impact of energy on air, soil, water, and human health. Andrew and his team are leading this transformation, helping businesses make smarter, more sustainable energy decisions that don't just check compliance boxes, they create lasting value. I'm super excited to dive into this topic today. So let's go. Andrew, welcome to Renewable Rides.
Garrett, thanks for having me. Great honor to be here with you today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm super excited for this discussion. We've been working together, and I love what you guys do, and I'm excited for our audience to hear more about it. Before we dive into yourself and Quantum, tell us what are you passionate about?
Thanks for having me. Great to be here. Candidly, I never expected I'd find myself in the energy industry. But when my dear friend and now business partner, Dr. Daniel Howard, helped me to understand the magnitude of impacts that we're carrying from a fossil fuel-centric energy system, it directly resonates with my dear love of nature. I had an epic experience we could go into another time, swimming with a whale, free diving. They came up to me and visited. I've got a daughter and another one on the way. So, my passion is around optimizing energy decisions that both make financial sense. They have to, otherwise they're not going to happen. But then to optimize for the positive impacts at hand. So that's human health impact on our precious ecosystems, and ultimately that translates into economic dollars, which tends to bring both sides of the aisle together.
Yeah, I love that. Tell us about the whale experience. That sounds amazing.
Oh, yeah. Anybody that's had an epic nature experience, it does something to you. It changes you. I was out free diving on the big island of Hawaii on the Kona side in about 400 or 500 feet of blue water. And out of the depths, oh my goodness, what is that? SH, and I get closer and closer. Oh, it's a whale. And I still was freaking out. Oh, and then wait, it was a humpback and its baby.
Wow.
And they literally swam. I was probably 40 feet down, and they swam right up to me, so close that through my field of vision and my mask, all I could see was just one small portion of them at a time, the eye looking at me. And it was as if there was this nonverbal communication of just, I see you, I love you, and we're good. I don't know how else to describe it, but it was flabbergasting. And wow, yeah, I mean, the most precious, gentle giants. And, it seems so disconnected, and we can touch into some of this in our conversation today. But the decisions that we make about how we generate electricity implicates those whales. It implicates your and my health,
yep,
your children, mine, and future generations. And we want to be a part of making that better.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
I love that story. And actually, I was at South by Southwest last week, Andrew, and one of the panels that I listened to was a discussion about how the LNG industry they have so much spare gas in the US now, then they want to export it to Asia. But California, Washington, Oregon won't allow LNG export terminals to be built. And so they're currently looking at building one at the northern tip of the Gulf of California, which is like the Baja. And the whole panel was saying, we're at this real tipping point of, are we willing to now continue to destroy these super unique habitats that have been protected? Or is it all about shareholder value and profits only and getting this gas to market? And it really resonates because that part of the world, I've spent a lot of time down there exploring on the motorbike and things, and it's beautiful, it's untouched. But that Sea of Cortez or the Gulf of California is pristine, and it's one of the most important whale habitats on the planet. So I love that story. It resonates a lot.
Thanks for sharing. And, the intro might present me as, a tree-hugging whale lover. Mostly that's true, but I bring a practical business sense to the table as well.
Yeah.
And I think as we get going today, I'm fully cognizant of the fact that these investments, these decisions around energy infrastructure, they need to make economic sense and drive real hard value. So there's a lot there that we can unpack.
So tell us, what is Quantum Energy? What's the mission? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so Quantum Energy exists to bring impact analytics to all energy decisions. And the reason that is vitally important is that these impacts on human health, on ecosystems and our economy are largely not being quantified or included, whether that's in a financing decision, whether that's in due diligence or underwriting, whether that's in approvals, permitting processes for large utility scale projects, whether that's in decision-making criteria for a corporate buyer. These impacts are largely missing, and they're material to business. We can get into some of those details. But high level, we accelerate and de-risk clean energy supply into the market, and we help large buyers justify and buy and then capture more ROI through their clean energy investments with this impact analytics capability that we bring to market.
Yeah, that's so good. And just give us a quick insight into the analytics side of it, Andrew. What data comes in, what gets crunched, what comes out, How does that work?
Yeah. So high level, and I keep it high level.
Yeah.
You want to go technical depths? That's for Dr.
Yeah,
Howard.
not for me.
high level, what we do is we have a sophisticated grid modeling solution, so energy system optimization model that predicts every single hour over the course of a given time frame, say a year, how does a given project in question impact the grid system?
Yeah.
So, for example, when was that? Just tail end of, it was in December of last year. We had the great honor of supporting DeMille Renewables and their 1.3 gigawatt Vista Sands Solar project in Wisconsin. It was the largest project ever being proposed in the state. And by the number of comments and interveners on the legal docket, it was also the most contentious. A project of this size, project of any size, there's going to be trade-offs.
Yep.
And we have to face that head on and realize that there are pros, there are cons. And what we were able to do was quantify the health benefits, the ecosystem benefits, and the economic benefits expected from this project. And how that works is every single hour that the grid is operating, we run the model without the project, back tested to the EIA database. So the actual reported generation over the full course of a year. So right now we're back testing to 2024 EIA reported data.
Yep.
We run the model again and with the new project. So with the 1.3 gigawatts located here in this MISO balancing authority for this project. And with that, every single hour, our model, through both a theoretical approach and an AI and machine learning driven approach of how the grid has responded to new injections of power, we modeled the most likely scenario every single hour for how the grid is going to adapt with that new project. And thus we can see what grid generation is going to be displaced. In this case, a significant amount of natural gas, a significant amount of coal. And this is an economics thing, largely driven by what's the lowest dispatchable, what's the lowest cost of energy to dispatch first. Sure. That's generally how these dispatch algorithms work. And so with that, then you can translate the changes in grid generation from different generator types to changes in emissions. And when we say emissions, I like to think about it in the context of pollution.
Yep.
Because pollution is a more umbrella term that includes not just carbon emissions, but life cycle CO2 equivalent. So all greenhouse gases. And then a whole host of all these other pollutant impact categories that include things like particulate matter, that is the number one leading non-behavioral cause of premature death globally. Estimated 1 in 8 in the US from burning fossil fuels.
Wow.
Hugely, hugely impactful, often not included in these decisions. But there's human toxicity emissions. There's emissions to our water, to our soil. We also include land use impacts as well. So there's a lot more depth that we could go into in that. But at the end of the day, we help to bring a quantitative driven approach to understanding impact from both increases in emissions from producing, say, these solar panels, as well as the operational benefits from how the grid system changes, what types of generation are displaced, and the value of that in terms of human life years saved, species saved, and dollars saved.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think I love the holistic approach, Andrew, because I think very often we see this every day. Businesses are making pure ROI-based investment decisions, and this is just dollars and cents on a balance sheet. But you're helping people understand the holistic opportunity beyond that. Before the call, we were talking about a lot of these things you're describing were probably previously seen to be vanity metrics, things that you can use in marketing and branding materials. But now there's actual requirements to be reported on this. Do you want to just talk through how you're seeing the market adapt and how companies need to be rethinking how they report, how they make decisions, and how this plays into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of you are very likely that are be listening here familiar with the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. This is an EU-based compliance and regulatory situation. Approximately 50,000 companies, the last I checked, are under the thumb of this regulation, including about 3,000 large US-based multinationals with operations in Europe. This changes everything because these companies are now being required to report their avoided emissions to air, soil, and water, as well as their emissions to air, soil, and water. And so when it comes to clean energy investments, it's one of the most important pieces of these investments is to quantify those benefits of avoided emissions to air, soil, and water. It's the exact outputs that are being required by CSRD for short, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. And so that directly implicates corporations and, say, their access to capital, their relationships with investors. Just recently had a conversation with a massive fund, something like 600 billion euros in assets under management. And they basically said, our most important LP is now requiring us to measure these impacts and use this in terms of our due diligence for making investments in large-scale clean power companies and projects. Changes everything.
Yeah, I think the access to capital, access to competitive capital, shareholder price, customer acquisition and customer retention, as well as employee retention. These are all stackable benefits, aren't they? But people need to believe in the mission, believe in what you're describing to the market, and see that you see this as a both a business and a community impactful investment versus just a pure I'm going to save some money.
Absolutely. And the reality is, if you're a large corporate right now, let's just take, for example, all over the news, the hyperscalers. Well, what are the hyperscalers? Well, they're data center providers.
Yep.
Why are they important? Well, they're providing the compute necessary to meet the AI moment.
Yep.
What do they need to build more data centers?
Yep.
Power
and water. Yeah.
Power and water. Yeah. Obviously it's not just that fiber, GPUs, but when it comes to the major bottleneck, power is really one of the big challenges that they all need to overcome. to build data centers. And so this is a unique time right now where what we're seeing is we are working with some of the largest corporate buyers, including one of the largest hyperscalers. What do they need? Well, they need the ability to have insights that helps them to outcompete their competitors. One of the ways that we can help them to do that, well, help anybody do that that's buying, is to have these insights that help you to make better energy decisions based on how do we maximize every dollar invested for impact. Not just because it's the right thing to do, but because more impact means less risk in that project coming to fruition on time, and thus the power necessary to, say, fire up that data center.
Yeah.
And the revenue at risk is just astounding. I mean, we're talking a gigawatt data center, low end estimate is probably $500 million in top line revenue every month that data center is not online.
Yes. Yeah, so speed to market is super important. And speed to market comes in social license to operate and having the support of everyone around you. Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of like that Vista Solar project, what were some of the benefits that you're able to share that really sort of helped the stakeholders get behind it?
Yeah, it was quite an experience to be part of it. We actually joined the permitting testimony in what is referred to as the rebuttal process. So the developer had already done their direct testimony. As you can imagine, with a very, very large project like this, there's trade-offs, there's opposition, there's advocates. But what changed was that, and this is not just specific for this project, virtually all developers building these projects point to these benefits in qualitative ways.
Yeah.
Well, it's better for health. It's better for environment. It's better for the economy. How much so, right? And so that's what we brought to the table. When there was opposition saying, well, you can't prove these benefits, we're able to bring in evidence that prove these benefits. And what we found is that in the first year of operating this 1.3 gigawatt Vista Sands Solar, is that there would be an expected I'm rounding up, approximately 2,500 years of human life saved. The technical term is a disability adjusted life year. It accounts for morbidity and mortality as it relates to changes in exposure to various emissions across all these different impact categories. The second key category is around species benefits. If I recall correctly, 5 species are expected to be saved because of the displacement of natural gas and coal, and thus yielding these benefits. Technical term there, potentially disappeared fraction of species. I don't expect you to remember all of this, but the reason that I mention it is this is why it's credible. We integrate leading industry standard metrics for health metrics, the disability adjusted life year, or DALY for short. Same thing with species, the potentially disappeared fraction of species, or PDF for short. And we integrate it into a highly efficient energy system model for the first time, so that at the project level, these impact analytics can be illuminated for the first time to inform stakeholders. And I think often it's the cover that they need to make an evidence-driven decision that's the right fit for the community, the economic benefits, the societal benefits, et cetera.
Yeah, I love it. And who is mostly using your platform today and getting these insights? Like, who is your ideal customer?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So a simple way to think about it is on the supply side of the market, we're helping some of the largest energy developers, clean power developers in particular, to de-risk and accelerate their projects through to commercial operation.
Yeah.
So the powerful example of Vista Sands, back in October of 23, we actually had the great opportunity to support the largest renewable energy complex at that time, the 2.8 gigawatt Babbitt Ranches energy complex out in Coconino County, Arizona. That project had been stalled for 2 years. Stakeholder meeting, probably 70, 80 key folks, developers, federal agencies, state, county, all came together. We were able to illuminate some of the benefits there that were missing, to the tune of an estimated $5 billion per year in estimated benefits from this project. And ultimately, 6 weeks later, the largest portion got greenlit. It's now up to a 4 gigawatt potential.
Wow.
So we've had the opportunity to play a meaningful role in some of the largest on the supply side of the market. And then on the buy side, alluded to this earlier, we're working with some of the largest corporate buyers of clean power, and they need to optimize their decisions, de-risk and accelerate the siting and operation of their clean power investments, and then they need to be able to report and capture the ROI on that side. The third piece, and this is really critical and relevant here with VECKTA as well, is an API-first approach to the platforms and people that facilitate the market.
Yes.
So, for example, the VECKTA marketplace, I know we've talked about this and really excited about the potential together, is illuminating these metrics at every single project so that buyers can understand the human impact of these decisions beyond hard economics.
Yeah. Humanizing the data is amazing, isn't it? The example you're sharing is, and we recently worked together where we have a healthcare provider. They're looking at it's a fairly small project in the grand scheme of things, 750 kilowatt solar project. But you guys were able to help us go, present beyond the IRR, NPV, typical return on investment metrics, the 25-year cash flows. We help the customer understand what system to build, why to build it, and what the financial benefits are. And then you helped us show for that project alone, 28 years of life saved, 0.06 species, and $7.4 million worth of economic value. And that's huge. If this healthcare provider whose mission is to save lives can actually show by investing in this project, not only do they save money and they hedge against the risk of rates continually going up and eroding their operating profits, they can also appeal to their customers who, when surveyed recently, over 80% of them said they expect their healthcare provider to be reducing emissions and contributing to the community. And over 50% expect to be seeing renewable power sources on site, energy efficiency being deployed, as well as more and more waste being managed. And so it just shows how customers are looking for these initiatives. They're looking for the people that they are partnering with, buying from, to be leading by example and following through on their core missions, objectives. And so super valuable to be able to humanize that data and tell stories around that versus the cut and dry dollars and cents.
I love it. And that's exactly why we're here, and imagine a company like the one you're referring to, if they've got multiple sites. I recall, an estimated 100 sites that are viable for similar sized solutions. You're talking a couple thousand years of human life being saved by investing in this on-site clean power, and the obvious benefits that you've touched on. I mean, you've got to own your power, resilient power, the sustainability claims behind it, and really truly driving societal benefit in a tangible way.
Yeah, it's super powerful. And I think this is what's needed to really help people get over some of the internal frictions they may have when trying to make these investment decisions. Everyone's competing for capital internally. If you can be competing for capital and showing all of these stackable benefits, it becomes a far easier story to tell. And it allows you to out compete your peers within the organization who are asking for money that ultimately doesn't have a return on investment. Here is like true returns on investment for business, society, community, broader economy. It's amazing.
Wholeheartedly agree. And at the end of the day, there's a human being, the CFO, let's just say, who's holding the pen that can say yes or say no. And that human being might also have photos on the wall of his or her family. Might also have photos back here of his or her family. And up until now, I think we've kind of missed the boat in hyper focusing or myopically focusing on avoided carbon emissions. Do not get me wrong. I personally believe that's very, very important. However, my point is, I don't necessarily feel anything about avoiding so many tons of carbon emissions. And when it comes to influencing that CFO to ink the agreement, or sign the check, sign the PPA, that person needs to feel something if the economics are on the edge, or, in today's PPA market, they're paying up.
Yeah.
They're paying up significantly, and they're often perceived as a cost center when they can do tremendous benefit by saying yes and signing off for that on-site power or that massive PPA or whatever it might be.
Yeah. So where do you see this going as you progress, Andrew? Like, what's the vision? What are the next stages of growth for you guys? Where do you see the market heading in terms of adopting these sort of metrics?
I see an essential piece of the puzzle that we're bringing to bear, and we're taking an API first approach. In layman's terms, what that means is that we're going to be programmatically illuminating these impact analytics in platforms, perhaps like VECKTA's, any sort of energy marketplace, carbon accounting platform, you name it. Wherever the key participants in this market on the supply and buy side exist, our intention is to light up, illuminate for the first time, and humanize these products that are, if we're talking rec market, they're often seen as commodities, and they're just not.
Yeah.
When you illuminate these metrics, there's differences between these products, and so our vision is to bring these analytics far and wide. The other piece is that if you are a facilitator of the market, like VECKTA is, or you're a major consultancy or an advisor in energy markets, you have a new tech enablement lever to pull, and to pull in a way that can influence these decisions at scale. And so that's some of what I see. And then furthermore, I really do believe that many humans understand the value of transitioning to clean energy. And it's not to say that it works in every situation for every use case. That would be naive.
Yeah.
But in our transition towards a technology-based energy system versus a fuel-based energy system that constantly requires the mining of those materials, it's expensive and it damages our environment and the air we breathe, everything else. That's largely what we do. There's this tremendous opportunity to change the narrative and help people to feel why these decisions matter to a new degree that is not possible without impact analytics being available through software in the places that the market participants are already transacting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, we have an internal flywheel at VECKTA, and we always say, to actually start the flywheel, you need to provide customized data, intelligence, and insights that then inspires confidence to act. And I think this is the most critical piece of the puzzle, isn't it? Is ensuring that the business leaders, the people who are expected to drive change, innovate, ideate, put pen to paper, and invest in these projects, actually have the data at their fingertips to be able to make these informed decisions, and that they're not just shooting in the dark.
Absolutely. And so maybe just to be clear, this type of analysis, it's not that it's brand new. We're not inventing something new. It's just that it used to take potentially many, many months or years of time, teams of scientists, terabytes of data, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And so at the project level, it was impractical, unaffordable, not really feasible.
Yeah.
And so that's the big leap, taking that from what I just described to available in minutes by non-scientist stakeholders. Average business users should be able to generate these types of impact analytics on their own, and fundamentally changing the access at the project level. There's a lot more that we could go into around utilities. We've got a major project going with a global R&D leader in the power industry. We'll save the naming of that for some time soon. But the whole point being that not all net zero pathways are created equal. Why is that? The non-CO2 human health and ecosystem benefits vary wildly depending on your scenario. And soon enough, likely Q3, might be Q4, you will see some major research coming out that Quantum is helping to facilitate and unveil, that if we just look at carbon emissions, we're missing out on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And in fact, net zero is not created equal. And so utilities, governments, policy, these are all the areas that I see these data points making a difference for for profit people and for planet.
Yeah, so good. If you could leave any message with business leaders thinking about investing in on-site energy, renewable energy, utility scale energy systems, is there anything that you've seen, you've witnessed that you'd like to leave with them?
I would say take a hard look at your excuses for not acting.
Yeah.
Take a hard look at the reasons that you are really allowing to hold your organization back. And what are the risks of inaction?
Yeah.
Maybe first start with dollars at stake, because that's what you're likely used to. Look at the dollars at stake. Look at the trends with where you're getting your power right now from your utility. There's no guarantees they're going to continue to be able to deliver you power amidst load growth largely from hyperscalers, but other areas of industry. So there's real business risks at stake by not taking action. And then if it's relevant or if there's an opportunity to illuminate the impacts of these decisions, to weigh into yes, no, sooner, make the answer sooner, we would love to be a part of that.
Yeah, so good. Cool. You're obviously super well read. You got great knowledge. Do you have any preferred sources of information that you'd share with our audience? Where do you get your best content? Podcasts, articles, newsletters?
I find most of my content largely through relationships. I'm a people person.
Yeah.
And so in being the business development leader at Quantum, helping us go from 0 to 1, I've had the blessing of communicating, getting to know and building relationships with so many amazing leaders on all different facets of this energy market. And over the last handful of years, that's I really try to lean in and listen. And there's so much nuance. And then after a while, you have a dozen conversations, 100 conversations with a group or a type of whether it's a large buyer or a developer or whomever it might be. And there's often golden threads that pull through there, and they're always changing. And so I get my best information from really learning and listening from leaders whom I respect in conversation.
Yeah, it's great. I think I was listening to this article the other day, and the guy was saying, we need to be using AI to take the mundane data crunching work out of our lives to be able to focus more time and energy on the relationships, on the conversations, on the networking, because that's being lost. As someone who's thriving in that space, what are your thoughts on how do we bring more of this social engagement back, some more networking, some more like greater collaboration? Because I think we're certainly going down that trap of being too stuck on our screens.
Oh man, I was just telling my wife, this is funny, don't take it the wrong way, but man, I think that Zoom fatigue is kicking in. That's a good question. I love all the AI tools. I'm utterly fascinated with Claude recently to help take my thoughts and ideas, give it something, and then help it to really collate it in an impactful and clearly articulated manner. But in terms of relationships, gosh, I recently had a phone call because Zoom wasn't working. And it's counterintuitive because getting to see one another and expression, micro expressions, all this can be really valuable. But there was something about the lightness of being on a phone call. I think I even went for a walk out back around the block. And so that was something that I actually just was thinking about. Maybe I'm just going to start calling rather than Zooming occasionally and just seeing if that brings a different spirit to things. I don't know if that's going to help, but that was something that struck me as odd. Yeah, and I really enjoyed the phone call.
Yeah, so much more happens, doesn't it, with good in-person quality meetings, people building trust, building relationships, and so I like that you gain your knowledge through those engagements. I think it adds a lot of impact. It adds a lot of context, doesn't it, that we often lose when we're just skimming and reading and listening to content. You actually don't get the true depth around what it is that is actually going on.
And there's always so much going on a personal level that it's easy to just drop right into business. And I really liked how you opened our call and you're asking. I wasn't planning to share my freediving with whales story, but it's just one of those examples of how you can connect on a personal level and Before we were on this, we were all, Dan Roberts was on, and we're talking about being fathers, and
Yeah.
I'm expecting a new one, and you both have children, and you get that camaraderie and shared sense of purpose. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about what we can achieve together, and laying the foundation and enabling a brighter, healthier energy future, for our children and for those that are less fortunate to be able to be in a spot to influence what the future might look like.
Yeah. Well, you've kind of teed me up for like the final question, which is,
oh boy,
yeah, you will have been successful in your life when ...
It has nothing to do with quantum. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. When my children are grown and they reach out to me because they trust me, and they ask me for advice on something that's most near and dear to their life.
Love it. And you'll have set a very good example based on what you're doing every day. You're visionary, you're leading the charge. You and Daniel and the team are really setting the precedent for the future of how we make smart decisions. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for your time today, and excited to be collaborating going forwards.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you personally, how you're leading VECKTA, how you're enabling and supporting buyers to make good decisions, and ultimately yield those secondary benefits that have positive impacts for all of us. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm here in full support however it can be helpful.
You're awesome. Thanks. Dan, of all the episodes to miss, sorry you missed that one. That was great.
Very disappointed. I love what Andrew and Daniel and their team are working on at Quantum, so I was very sad that I could not be there, but I know they were in good hands with you.
Yeah, it was a really good episode, and great conversation. I really like Andrew. He's very similar to ourselves. Has a massive love for the outdoors, nature, family, and wants to have a positive impact on the world. And I really like what him and the team are up to. Ultimately, this boils down to how do we humanize and make these impacts tangible? How do we feel the impact? I think you and I speak about this a lot. When we're having these conversations with people who are thinking about deploying these systems, like, what does a ton of carbon even mean? Like, how do we? I don't even know. Like, I can't even get excited about that.
It's something that is so nebulous. Something that it comes up in conversations all the time of, what's the scope 2 emissions impact on this particular project? And it's like, oh, well, it's 36%, or it's, 1,800 tons, but like, what is actually 1,800 tons? It's something that we like struggle. I struggle. I'm sure many people out there struggle to really put their finger on what does that actually mean. And it's so great that they're able to bring these actual quantification to things that are meaningful to us.
Yeah.
Human lives, biodiversity, being able to just understand these stackable benefits. And so when there's companies out there that are thinking about doing these projects, and decarbonization comes up, and maybe that gets people, but we know that, blanking on the author right now, but there's a great book, Predictably Irrational, that humans are emotional beings. Making something nebulous like a ton of carbon into something that is actually meaningful to us as humans, that a year of human life saved, or X number of humans saved because of this project, might get things to move. Yeah. And it sounds like from knowing what they're working on, it has been.
Yeah. No, it's really impactful, isn't it? I think we've done a really good job of conveying to customers the returns on investment, hitting all the internal financial metrics, why you should do it. And there are immediate cost savings. There are profitable decisions to be made. And that often is enough to drive people. But sometimes, making this personal connection to people, we talked about the healthcare example that we worked together on. And, that small project alone being able to save 28 years of life. If you can actually turn around and be the CFO who's about to sign that document and think, I could add 3 years of extra life with 10 of my closest friends in terms of time with their grandkids. Like, that's super, super powerful, isn't it? And I think it can really help drive a bit of that legacy thinking around actually positively influencing the community.
It's interesting. It's not in lieu of a strong business case, although we are seeing some companies that are taking action in what we would consider kind of relative to others, maybe mediocre business cases. But it's just a great addition to it. And it just makes me think back. I recently had a comment from someone the other day around why are most Americans not interested in clean energy? Mm-hmm. And it kind of took me aback and think, okay, assuming that there's a strong business case, I would find it hard to believe, especially if you positioned it this way, to any American or human for that matter, that this energy system versus this energy system, all else being equal, one's going to save years of human life or human lives beyond just a handful of years. 10 times out of 10, I feel like they're going to pick the one that is better for humanity.
Yeah.
And if they're not, probably shouldn't be hanging out with them and asking them that question anyways.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that it really, really makes me excited. And we'll be looking forward to bringing more of these types of metrics into our discussions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the way to go, isn't it? Like, we need to be delivering these business cases consistently with the holistic view. And I think being able to tell the whole picture is what gets the whole market moving. So super awesome conversation, and excited for many more collaborative efforts.
Exactly. Take care.
Bye. We receive a lot of questions from business leaders around the world wanting to learn more about the energy transition, what is possible, and where to start. So to help you stay informed and up to date on best practices, opportunities, risks, and success stories, we created an industry newsfeed at VECKTA.com/news with all our podcasts, blogs, and newsletter. Check it out and connect with Dan, myself, and the VECKTA team to learn more. Cheers and have a good one.